Okay guys, we are back with day 3 of A Tale of Despereaux. Yesterday we saw our friend Despereaux listen to the sweet sound of music, and he just kept crawling closer to it until he realized that the music was coming from the king. He was playing music for his daughter, Princess P. And Despereaux just couldn't help himself, and he broke the number 1 rule of all mice rules, to never reveal yourself to a human. Now, Princess P thought Despereaux was really cute and really liked him and tried to convince her dad to play music for him. Princess P's dad, on the other hand, the king, wasn't too happy and thought Despereaux was even a bug because he was so small. But he agreed to play music for him because his daughter really wanted him to, but he was pretty angry about it. At the same time, there was Furlough, Despereaux's brother, who crept along and discovered his brother sitting at the face of humans, and that is not allowed in the mouse world. So he ran to go tattletale on him, and he told his dad what he saw his brother doing. Now his dad got out his drum and started banging his drum to alert the Mouse Council that something terrible had happened. So now we're going to read Chapter 7, A Mouse in Love. And what was our own favorite member of the mouse community doing while the sound of the Mouse Council drum echoed through the walls of the castle? Reader, I must report that Furlough had not seen the worst of it. Despereaux sat with the princess and the king and listened to song after song, and at one point, gently, oh so gently, the pea picked up the mouse in her hands. She cupped him in her palm, and she scratched his oversized ears. "You have lovely ears," the pea said to him. "They are like small pieces of velvet." Despereaux thought that he might faint with the pleasure of someone referring to his ears as small and lovely. Why do you think he's so astounded that somebody's calling his ears small and lovely? Do you think it's because all of his brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and everybody always make fun of his ears, and now someone's telling him that they like him? He laid his tail against the pea's wrist to steady himself, and he felt the princess's heartbeat. The pounding of her heart and his own heart immediately took the rhythm of hers. "Papa," the pea said when the music was over, "I'm going to keep this mouse. We are going to be best friends." The king looked at Despereaux, cupped in his daughter's hands, and narrowed his eyes. "A mouse?" he muttered. "A rodent?" "What?" said the pea. "Put it down," the king commanded. "No," said the pea, who was a person not at all used to being told no. "I mean, why should I?" "Because I told you." "But why?" protested the pea. "Because he's a mouse." "I know, I'm the one who told you he was a mouse." "I wasn't thinking," said the king. "Thinking of what?" "Your mother, the queen." "My mother," said the pea sadly. "Mice are rodents," said the king. He adjusted his crown. "Mice are related to rats, and you know how we feel about rats. You know our own dark history with rats." The pea shuddered. "But Papa," she said, "he's not a rat. He's a mouse. There's a difference." "Royalty," the king says, "has many responsibilities, and one of them is not becoming involved personally with even the distant relative of one's enemies. Put him down, pea." The princess put Despereaux down. "Good girl," said the king. And he looked at Despereaux. "Scat," he said. Despereaux, however, did not scat. He sat and stared at the princess. The king stomped his foot. "Scat!" he shouted. "Papa," said the princess, "please don't be mean to him." And she began to weep. Despereaux, seeing her tears, broke the last of the great ancient rules of mice. He spoke to a human. "Please," said Despereaux, "don't cry." He held out his handkerchief to the princess. The pea leaned down close to him. "Do not speak to her," thundered the king. Despereaux dropped his handkerchief and backed away from the king. "Rodents do not speak to princesses. We will not have this becoming a topsy-turvy, wrong-headed world. There are rules. Scat! Get lost before my common sense returns and I have you killed." The king stomped his foot again. Despereaux found it alarming to have such a big foot brought down with so much force and so much anger so close to his small head. He ran towards the hole in the wall. But he turned before he entered it. He turned and shouted to the princess, "My name is Despereaux." "Despereaux?" she said. "I honor you," shouted Despereaux. "I honor you" is what the knight said to the fair maiden in the story that Despereaux read every day in the library. Despereaux had muttered this phrase often to himself, but he had never before this evening had an occasion to use it when talking to someone. "Get out of here," shouted the king, stomping his foot, and then harder and harder and harder, as if the whole castle, the whole world were shaking. "Rodents know nothing of honor." Despereaux ran into the hole, and from there he looked out at the princess. She had picked off his handkerchief and was looking at him, right directly into his soul. "Despereaux," she said. He saw his name come out of her lips. "I honor you," whispered Despereaux. "I honor you." He put his paw over his heart and bowed so low that his whiskers touched the floor. He was, alas, a mouse deeply in love. Chapter 8. To the Rats. The Mouse Council, 13 honored mice and 1 most very honored head mouse, heeded the call of Leicester's drum and gathered in a small secret hole off King Philip's throne room. The 14 mice sat around a piece of wood balanced on spools of thread and listened in horror while Despereaux's father related the story of what Furlough had seen. "At the foot of the king," said Leicester. "Her finger was right on top of his head," said Leicester. "He was looking up at her, and it was not in fear." The Mouse Council members listened with their mouths open. They listened with their whiskers drooping and their ears flat against their heads. They listened in dismay and outrage and fear. When Leicester finished, there was silence, and it was dismal and deep. "Something," intoned the most very honored head mouse, "is wrong with your son. He is not well. This goes beyond his fevers, beyond his large ears and his lack of growth. Your son is deeply disturbed. His behavior endangers us all. Humans cannot be trusted. We know this to be an indisputable fact. A mouse who consorts with humans, a mouse who would sit right at the foot of a man, a mouse who would allow a human to touch him." And here the entire Mouse Council indulged in a collective shiver of disgust. "Cannot be trusted. That is the way of the world, our worlds. Fellow mice, it is my most fervent hope that Despereaux has not spoken to these humans. But obviously we can assume nothing, and this is a time to act, not wonder." Leicester nodded his head in agreement, and the 12 other members of the Mouse Council nodded their heads too. "We have no choice," said the head mouse. "He must go to the dungeon." He pounded his fist on the table. "He must go to the rats immediately. Members of the council, I will ask you now to vote. Those in favor of Despereaux being sent to the dungeon, say aye." There was a chorus of sad ayes. "Those opposed, say nay." Silence was in the room. The only noise came from Leicester. He was crying. And 13 mice, ashamed for Leicester, looked away. Reader, can you imagine your own father not voting against you being sent to a dungeon full of rats? Can you imagine him not saying one word to stand up for you? Despereaux's father wept, and the most very honored head mouse beat his paw against the table over and over again. "Despereaux Tilling will appear before the Mouse Council community. He will hear of his sins. He will be given a chance to deny them. If he does not deny them, he will be allowed to renounce them so he may go to the dungeon with a pure heart. Despereaux Tilling is hereby called to sit with the Mouse Council." At least Leicester had the decency to cry at the act of his perfidy. Reader, do you know what perfidy means? I have a feeling you do, based on the little scene that is just unfolded here, but you should look up the word in your dictionary, just to be sure. Go ahead and look up perfidy, P-E-R-F-I-D-Y. I'll see you tomorrow.